Hey there, friends. Welcome to the Taking Your Next Step podcast from Collegians for Christ. Through each episode, we will journey together focusing on knowing what you believe and why you believe it. If you are eager, like I am, to strengthen your faith, then take your next step now by joining us in today's episode. We've been walking through Psalm 73, and we see that Asaph, the writer of the psalm, almost tripped and fell in his Christian life. He almost went down hard. So the question is, how can you and I, who find ourselves in Asaph's situation, where we're about to lose our footing, we're about to trip and fall, we're losing our balance in our Christian life, we're about to walk away from it all, we're struggling. How do we keep from tripping and falling? Even if we're doing great right now, how do we keep ourselves from tripping and falling in our Christian life? Last week we looked at the idea we have to learn to respect the chastening of God, or God's chastening. As we move forward, the second element out of the three is we have to learn to remember God's children. What do you mean? Asaph says in verse number 1 and 2, he begins with the conclusion. We'll say it again. Truly, God is good. And I hope if you walk away with nothing else from these episodes, focusing on Psalm 73, that you can say, truly, God is good. He says, truly, God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, the contrast, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. He said, I almost gave up everything. But then he begins a transition. He begins to share with us how he got his footing back, how he came back. He said in verse 14, for all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. If I say, I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. What is Asaph saying here? He says you have to learn to remember God's children. He said, if I say, I will speak thus. Basically saying, if I was to say I'm done, I'm done with Christianity, I'm walking away from it. If I begin to share doubts in a negative way, it's fine for us just to process doubts. But if I begin to speak negatively against God, if I walk away from it, if I'm not faithful to the house of God anymore, whatever it is, if I will speak thus, behold, watch this, I should offend against the generation of thy children. He says, I'm gonna hurt someone. There are children, there are young people watching me. And he says this, when I thought to know this, it was too painful for me. He said, I cannot do it because of what it'll do to them. So you and I have to understand how God views children. Matthew 18:6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, watch what Jesus said, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Offend here means to cause, watch this, to trip and fall. What is Asaph saying? I almost tripped and fell. So to offend means to cause them to trip and fall, to put something in the way, to cause them to stumble. And God takes this very seriously. And can I say this? You always have someone watching you. Parents, your life really does matter. Sister, your life really does matter. Aunt, uncle, grandparent, friend, Christian, it doesn't matter. Member of XYZ church, ministry leader, what we say, what we do, how we act, and how we respond are all being watched by other people around us, especially children. And so we have to understand that God views children in a very high way, and he says, do not offend a child. And we have to understand how Asaph viewed children. You see, he knew that he could not quit God. It is so interesting to me in this passage that it should be for God's sake that he doesn't want to quit God. Because of God, because he wants to be found faithful, because of God's love, because of God's goodness. And that comes out. But he says this, he says, I knew I could not quit God because if I did, I would offend against the generation of thy children. The results would be devastating to those around him. We all have people that are watching us, and they're watching us closely. And they want to see if it's real, if they really want Jesus. Think about it in your own life. Do you know Christians that have fallen? Unfortunately, I have seen over the years Christians, no matter their position, that have fallen away. some to moral sin, some to just abandoning it, some walking away through severe trials. You can name all the different situations. And some of those are public leaders, and those falls are devastating. To see a pastor or a Christian leader morally fail is devastating to those people who were following him. And that's what Asaph is saying here. He says, if I do that, if I say that, I understand the ripple effect, and I'm not willing to do it. You see, there have to be some non-negotiables in our life, some lines that we will not cross, some lines that we predetermine in our mind. I will not go that far. Some things we just cannot do. Remember Daniel, he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the king's meat. That was a decision. It was a non-negotiable he had already made. He said, I will not go that far. And so here Asaph almost tripped and fell in his Christian life. He almost went down hard. How can you and I make sure we don't trip and fall in our Christian life? We have to remember to learn to respect the chastening. We looked at that last week. We have to learn to remember God's children. And then lastly here, we have to learn to return to God's church. I love this. He said, look, I can't do this because of what it's going to do to the kids. In verse number 17, until I went into the sanctuary of God, then understood I their end. So here he returned to church. And there he discovered he was not alone. You see, the place we need to run to is typically the place we run from in these type of situations. Why is that? Maybe it's the fear of judgment, the shame, the guilt. We don't want to face the problem. We view it as vulnerability, and we view that as a threat. But in the community of believers, he discovered he was not alone. He was not the only one going through it. And Satan likes so hard to try to make us feel like we're the only one, that nobody else is going through what we are. No one else is feeling like we are. But can I say this? When you go to church, a quick glance around and you realize that there are other people facing even greater problems. You see, for Asaph, his situation didn't look as bad as he thought. And for you and I, as we look around, we realize our situation's not as bad as we think. You see, there he found a community that would share and help him through his trial. You see, Asaph found the much-needed support where? At church. Asaph found the people who could counsel him through it where? At church. He found people that would speak truth in his life where? At church. And so he discovered he was not alone where? At church. And there he discovered a new perspective. Watch this. He said in verse 22, so foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. Think about that. And if I back up one verse, he said, thus my heart was grieved and I was pricked in my reins. What did he say? You see, the house of God is the place that helped him think spiritually. There's two different ways you and I can think. Naturally and spiritually. Thinking naturally, you'll trip and fall. Thinking spiritually, you'll get back up. You see, he almost tripped and fell because he approached his problem only through the lens of his natural thoughts and his natural understanding. And when it did not make sense, he started to get mad at God. Thinking naturally got him in big trouble. And when you and I think naturally, we won't understand what God is doing. We begin to think of God in the wrong way, and it breeds frustration. It breeds anger, and us ultimately speaking against God. It puts us in a place where we forget who God truly is. But at church, he got the true perspective of reality, a true perspective of the reality of their lives, the unbelievers that he got jealous of a few weeks back that we looked at in the beginning of Psalm 73. He began to think, wow, they've got everything they need, that God is blessing them and their pride is swelling up and God's doing nothing about it. You see, he got a true perspective that they will reap what they sow. He got convicted. Sometimes we don't want to go to church because we don't want that conviction, but I need conviction. You see, he got convicted when he would realize he was wrong. And not only that, he realized how wrong he was. And when he got the correct perspective, he was convicted. And that got him to thinking right. He realized that he had been thinking all wrong. He began to become embarrassed by how he was thinking. You know, it's crazy how our thoughts can feel so right, but they can be completely wrong. And failing to think spiritually will cause you and I to trip and fall. Church is where Asaph got his stance back. It's where he got back up and got his feet planted firmly. Church put his mind right. Church put his heart right. Church put his perspective on life right. Church put his view on God right. Church put him back on his feet, and church put him back ready to pray, praise, serve, worship, witness. What is it? Church put his life back together. Psalm 40 verses 2 and 3, he brought me up also out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear and shall trust in the Lord. What did he say? We're about to trip and fall. He put my feet upon a rock. And if I fall, I'm going to offend the generation of children. Watch this. And many shall see it when I come back, and they shall trust in the Lord. You see, Asaph's faith was put on trial. It caused him to question God's goodness because he did not understand God's goodness. Asaph's faith had to be put on trial. You understand that, right? He possessed an incorrect view of who God is or was and how God worked. And so Asaph had to get his view corrected of God's goodness. And so God worked through the trial to bring him to a correct perspective. And so God worked in and through that, and now Asaph views and possesses a correct view of who God is and how God works. Don't let circumstances dictate your understanding of God. Rather, let God dictate your understanding of your circumstances. When we have the order backwards, we have put God in the wrong place. And even as a faithful serving Christian, Asaph did not truly understand the goodness of God. And now he proclaims, what does he say? Now he proclaims, truly God is good. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If this podcast has been helpful to you, please share it with a friend or subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can connect with Collegians for Christ online for more information and resources at cfccampusministry.com.